Dreadball Magnetar circuit, I should say, Galactic Tour. This is a new supplement, like a new season supplement for Dreadball, and it's due out on February the 22nd. So it's not available just yet. You can pre-order it at the moment. I've been very kindly sent one by Rob in the chat there as well, to give me a chance to have a look over it and to tell you a little bit about it. So if you're a casual player, there's got some fun stuff in here basically that will change up some of the rules. If you're a serious player, you like going to tournaments and stuff, all of the new stats and the kind of, when I say new stats, the adjustments to existing stats are in here as well, and we'll touch on that in a bit. In this book is basically the ability to play on 4 different pitches. Now it doesn't change if you've got the pitch you've got at home, basically you play on that same pitch, but essentially what it does is thematically it sets that pitch somewhere else within the Magnetar circuit, within that kind of galaxy, and those pitches come with their own rules. So yeah, the first one is Calvac 6, and Calvac 6 is a swamp pitch, and basically it tells you a little bit of background story about there and well, why there's a swamp pitch, why anybody would want to play on a swamp pitch. Spoilers, it's just about people having money and about sponsorship. But there's some excellent rules in there basically. So there's a rule that says, where's the crowd? Because it's out in the middle of this dangerous swamp, there's not really anybody comes to watch these games. So you're playing in a swamp, there's no fans. It means that whenever you do one of the fan checks that I talked about before with the red dots, it essentially, each card you turn over, it reduces the number of red dots by 1. So if you turn it over, it's got 2 red dots, it only adds 1 to your fan check pile. But by the same stretch, because it's really quiet, you can hear the coach much better, shouting his orders out. So every turn you get, or every rush, you get an extra coaching die because he's been able to motivate you to be able to kind of play better, and you can hear what he's saying because there's no crowd to get in the way. I like that these rules are kind of like based around the theme. And there's another rule as well, says I'm not playing there, which makes you check at the start of the game to see if your most expensive player even turns up for the game. It's like, I'm not playing there. Like I'm too good to be playing in this kind of game. So I think that's quite a fun thing there as well. There are also other rules as well for this particular one, which sees kind of like vines growing across the pitch as the game goes on, and you can actually push your opponents into the vines, which basically kind of reduces their armor checks and stuff. So this gives you some flavour about what these new pitches do, and gives you some like thematic rules that go along with each of these different themes. The second pitch that's in there as well is the new Atlantia one. This is an underwater pitch. It brings in basically new places for the ball to launch from. So instead of just sort of launching from the 2 sides, it can also launch from either end of the pitch, which really mixes up kind of where the ball comes in. As I mentioned before, in Dreadball, the game doesn't reset after you score a strike. So basically, there's not a chance of kind of getting back to your end of the pitch to defend against your opponent. The ball's going to come in from multiple different locations now. Or can come in from multiple locations, and that really does mix it up a bit. There's also things like razor sharp coral as well, so the strike zones are made of razor sharp coral, and there's some sort of things that you have to do to get out of that. And there's also something called tidal flux, and there's a table where you basically roll on this tidal flux table, and it will decide what the water is particularly doing at that time, what's the sort of the tides of the sea are doing, and they have different effects on the different rushes. The third new pitch is the Overstar 2, and this is on a floating platform in the sky. And as you can imagine, the rules reflect this, with one of them being called It's a Long Way Down. So this brings in falling tests where you can actually fall off the side of this floating pitch in the sky. If you manage to pass the test, basically you kind of get one hand on the side of the pitch and manage to drag yourself back up on top of it. If you fail this test, you basically fall to your death. However, you don't necessarily die because they have something which is called a cryo revision chamber, and you roll on a table, and this might see you coming back completely healthy, revived from death. It might see you come back to play, but with maybe some kind of untoward side effects, or it might find that there's some malfunction with the cryo chamber and it basically freezes you, and that's it, you're dead and out of the game. So there's some cool stuff in there as well. There's another rule which is called pitch and yaw, and as you can imagine, this big floating platform is kind of moving around up in the sky, and as it moves, basically the players can move around the pitch. Obviously, as you move, you might fall off the side of the pitch as well, so you go back and do your falling tests. So this is kind of, you know, everything's set up to plan. You might have somebody just waiting on a strike hex ready to catch the ball, and the whole kind of pitch tilts and everybody moves and slides out of the way. So there's some really fun kind of like, would you want to do these in a very serious competitive environment? Maybe not, but I can imagine in like league play and certainly fun games, they'll really do mix it up. And the last pitch is called the Memphis Max, and this is basically a really sought after casino pitch where everybody wants to play. And as you can imagine, gambling is rife within the casino pitch. So there's a rule called place your bets. This sees you being able to gamble on things like fan support, scoring, or team experience. And there's even a chance, basically, to discard one of your cards from your hand and actually switch up your bets at some point during the game. So if you've placed that you think kind of your team's going to kind of score or whatever, or you're basically going to win the game, and it's not going your way, you can basically burn a card and basically move your bets and stuff, which I think is quite cool. And there's different odds as well for basically what you win back. And there's also something, as you can imagine, being in a really popular casino, the fans are going wild. It's hard to tell whether the fans are actually cheering for the quality of the game on the pitch, or if they're cheering because basically somebody's just been killed and they've won a bet kind of thing. So there's a rule called incessant cheering, which sees you drawing a fan check card at the end of each rush. I should say. So because there's a load of cheering, you automatically get fan checks. And there's also a guest referee, but we'll come on to that in a second. Now, what they've also included in this book is basically after every pitch has been described, there's then also like the rules or the stat lines for an historic match. So these are imagined kind of like famous games from years gone by. It might be kind of England, Argentina in Mexico 86 or something like that. Is that right? Yeah, it was Mexico 86. It might be one of those historical games or something like that type thing. And there's basically two predetermined teams with sort of all of the stats for the players, their players' names, or any enhancements that they've had and stuff. And basically just gives you some nice background story too. So this really kind of fills out some almost thematic kind of narrative type play as well. Now also in this expansion, there is also 4 new support specialists. And that is these fellas here, or these fellas and ladies, I should say here. So, and each of these basically has a rule in the game. In the top left there, you can see a character called Mechanic, and she basically gives you successful armor checks. So what you basically do is, if you were to roll on an armor check when one of your opponents slams against you, you roll on an armor check, and if you fail to succeed, you can basically use this support specialist to give you extra successes on your armor check. And what you do is, if you want 1 success, you can basically use 1 success, and you will place her in the number 1 in the sin bin, and she'll be out of the game for 1 more rush. If you need 3 successes, you can place her in the number 3 in the sin bin, and you'll get those 3 successes, but she'll be out of the game for 3 more turns. So you kind of use them wisely type thing. The next one is, in the bottom left, is Hydrator. And Hydrator will give you successful dash checks. The dash, as I mentioned before, allows you to push your luck, and kind of, if you've come to the end of your move and you're 1 hex shy of getting into the strike zone, you can basically push your luck and just, I forget what it is. I think it's an agility test, and basically you have to roll to succeed. If you don't succeed, that means you basically fumble the ball and kind of hand it over. So you might want to use Hydrator to basically give you a bonus in that. Bottom right is Fixer, as you can see there. They look a little bit suspicious. I think it's a couple of Z's there on top of each other's shoulders. And it says these basically give you a distract check success. So distracting is part of fouling. You can imagine these two are shouting from the sidelines, trying to distract the referee to allow you to foul without getting caught. And then in the top right is a character called Thoth. And basically, if you play on the glittering, sparkling casino pitch, he can come in as like a guest referee, and because he's so fast and agile, he can actually move twice as fast as a normal ref bot. If you want to use him on any of the other pitches, you can actually recruit him as an MVP player as well. So MVPs are like mercenaries, basically. You can recruit them into your team. They're not kind of like loyal to any one particular team. Also included in the book as well is new and updated stats for 29 teams. So basically, I've gone through them all. I'm not going to tell you exactly what each of the different kind of changes are and stuff. Some of the teams have no changes. Some teams have a little bit of a change. So for example, the Veerman, the guard, basically has the agility has gone up, I suppose, or gone down from a 4+ to a 3+. So they're a bit more kind of, their agility is a bit better now, and all of the different positions gain boost. Things like Renton's Rejects and what was the other one? The Zor team as well have had multiple changes. So if you're playing on your kitchen table with your partner or whatever, or your family, you might not be interested so much in the stat changes. But if you're going to be playing in online leagues or any of that stuff, you're going to need the latest stats as well. But for me personally, if I just go back to this screen, for me personally, I think this is exactly the kind of thing that keeps Dreadball kind of fresh and alive. There's a lot of teams out there. There's loads of choice. If there's a team you don't like the look of, you can always kind of create your own team. Just use some of the stats that's existing. But I would definitely suggest, if you've never played the game before, download the free rules and give it a try. Kind of just have a look over it and give it a go. And if you've been playing for a while and you just want to freshen your game up, 100% check this out. I read through it and I was kind of like smiling as I was reading some of the stuff. It's really well done. Some of the rules have been really well thought out. Like things like the "I'm not playing there" rule, about the idea that like your star player is kind of too good to turn up to some swamp pitch. They're really fun and thematic, and they just bring a little bit more fun to the games as well. So it's available from February the 22nd. You can pre-order it from your local friendly gaming store. You can pre-order it from the Mantic website as well. You can even pre-order it from Goblin Gaming through my affiliate link, which it helps support me and the channel, and you'll get a small discount as well from Goblin Gaming. So yeah, check it out. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month. And there is lots of different tiers and bonuses, which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.